So I've been reached out to by a couple of the puppy owners from our most recent litter who've been having some struggles now that the puppies are starting to hit adolescence. So I said to them I'd do a bit of a post about it today, and I've been working all day. So this is the first chance I've had to do it. We're seeing a lot of common teenage behaviours, and we're seeing like them come out in a big way. So as dogs go through adolescence, they have one big massive hormone surge at the start of adolescence. It's a really, really, really big spike. So for the boys, obviously that, it's testosterone driven. And this can bring about a lot of troublesome behaviours, and it can cause a resurgence in behaviours that were sort of like settled down from puppyhood, and they kind of come back with a vengeance a little bit. Now, the good thing is it's not constant, and it's not something, that it's not going to be like that the whole way through adolescence. They will have peaks and troughs, so there will be times when the hormone surges are higher, and the behaviours are they're more, and there'll be times when the hormones settle a little bit, and their behaviour settles as well. So they go through these peaks and troughs throughout adolescence, but the big spike in hormones, the big first one is the worst usually. So what are the kinds of behaviours we're going to see? So you will see a resurgence in chewing and sort of destructive behaviours. And this is just because they're trying to self-soothe, so they're feeling a bit angsty, a bit teenagery, and chewing is one of the ways that they self-soothe. So Kira, for example, she's been doing a stellar job. She has chewed multiple corners of the skirting boards. So these bits here, this is one that I've had to fix because she's chewed it with some filler, and she's done a couple in the back porch as well. She's also ripped open the side of the dog couch, so underneath here. Very hidden by the blanket. Dax did the initial version of this, but Kira has reopened it a couple of times since she's hit adolescence. And when I went to Florida, a couple of weeks ago now, she stayed over at Neil's house, and I'd already started re-crate training her at this point. So I'd been crating her while she was left unattended. And I said to him, when I was leaving, I was like, look, you sure you don't want the crate for her? He says, no, it'll be fine. I was like, well, there's one in the van if you need it. And after the first night where she chewed 2 corners of his skirting boards and took the coals off of his fire and chewed those, she was then crated at Neil's house. Because when they are at this stage, it's not a case of it's a lack of training, it's a case of they're fighting against all the hormones. And they can't really help how it makes them feel. And the behaviours that they do, it's things that they're doing to try and make themselves feel better. Other things you'll see a resurgence in sort of more rowdy behaviour from the boys. So they can get a bit more mouthy again, a bit more giddy. You'll see a bit more of sort of like active sort of stages. So Kira, even though she should really be settling down for the evening, you can see she's up, she keeps pacing around, she's not settling down very well, whereas everybody else is trying to chill out. And again, it's because, those hormones are kind of making her want to get up and do stuff and be a bit of a pest. So to combat that side of things, we practice lots of calming behaviours. We do scatter feeds, we get the licky mats out. I will give her things to shred. So she's had a couple of toilet roll tubes today, for example. So because I'm acknowledging her need to get those behaviours out, I'm giving her appropriate ways to do it. So instead of just waiting for her to chew a skirting board or something like that, I am leaving things around for her to chew that she's allowed to have. So I'll give her toilet roll tubes, I'll give her cardboard boxes, I'll give her, bits of scrap paper to shred, stuff like that. Things she's allowed to chew up so she can get that behaviour out that she needs to do without being destructive with things that she's not supposed to, basically. And in turn, that's also going to help her calm. So we're also doing, as I say, scatter feeding. She's having licky mats. She's having puzzle feeders. So she only gets 1 meal in her bowl a day. So she will she'll only get her dinner in a bowl, basically. The rest of the food that she works for it. So she will have her breakfast. That's her training rewards when she's out for her walk. So when we're practicing her heel work on a leash, she has her kibble for that, and that's her breakfast. She works for that, and then a lunch, as I say, she'll have in a puzzle feeder of some sort. And all these things are just helping her to expel that need to be doing stuff, but without adding in that hyperactivity or that extra energy. Because the thing you'll have is, if you try to exercise out of them, not only is it going to backfire because it just makes them more active, and therefore they need more the next time and the next time and the next time. You're basically making them fitter, and therefore they need more and more to tire them out. But also, obviously, physical activity increases adrenaline and things like that, which actually has a knock-on effect, which is why you'll see when they've been out for their walk and stuff like that, they have a bit of a giddy kip a bit when they get back from walk, is because the adrenaline's high. So you don't want to be over-exercising them in an attempt to get rid of the behaviour, because it just backfires, basically. So you want to be using lots of mental activity. Training becomes more difficult during adolescence as well. They are less receptive to learning new things. It makes it hard for them. You can still teach them new stuff, don't get me wrong. But you need to take it back a notch and work on things that they already know. So their settled behaviour, for example, their boundary games, all that kind of stuff. Really, really useful, especially in this stage of doing self-control. If you're going to play games with them with toys, you want to be encouraging them to be able to self-control whilst playing as well. So having little pit stops. You want to make sure that you are, so play a game, stop, have a little pause, ask them to sit, release the toy, start off just with a second or two, and then continue the game, and do that several times throughout the play session. And then each time you do it, gradually increase the time you need them to stop and wait before you continue the play. So you're teaching them to have a little bit of self-control and a little bit of ability to stop and wind themselves down from those sort of like high energy behaviours. You want to make sure you've got loads of chews and things scattered around for them. So we have a bone box or a bone bucket. So over there, that blue bucket there that you can see, that is full of bones and things for her to chew. We've got the toy box over there that you can see she's been in, and she's scattered everywhere. So making sure she's got access to lots of appropriate chews as well is obviously really important to help with that too. And then you will see a change in their behaviour out and about with other dogs as well. They will get more angsty because they want to be going and greeting all these other dogs. And there's going to be times when that's not appropriate. And you will see they'll get a little bit more bouncy about it. You might get a bit of barking. You might get a bit of redirected frustration. A little bit of, Kira's, one of her favourite things to do is chew a lead. And yeah, so it's a case of getting them to calm it down. So either using food, if it works for the dog. Some dogs it's not going to. During adolescence, they can notoriously get very picky with their food, and decide that they don't want to have stuff that they've generally enjoyed. So making sure that you've got something, whether it's food or whether it's toy, having a nice high value toy. I used with Dax because she went off her food completely during adolescence. She's still a bit picky with it now. We have a rabbit fur tugger. And that was her reward, and that worked really well. So it's just a case of having something that works for the dog to get their attention and their focus basically back onto you, and to interrupt that problem behaviour. There are a couple of other games you can play. You can play the counting game with them, which helps. There's also look at that, or what they call lat. Training with them as well, where you're getting them to, working from a distance, acknowledge the trigger of the excitement of the other dog, not react, reward, and then sort of increase the time that they're exposed to it, and also decrease the distance, but at a pace that obviously suits the dog. You can't rush it. So I'll find out some links for those, and I'll pop them on the post in the comments. It'll probably be tomorrow morning now. Because we've got a photo shoot in the afternoon. So it's going to be Kira's first proper shoot, which will be exciting for her. Although I don't have the greatest hopes that she'll stay very well, because she's a teenager dear now. But it's indoors, so it shouldn't be too bad. So So there's a lot going on with them, bless them, and it's just a case of trying to remember that they aren't intentionally being defiant or naughty or all of these things, and a lot of people get wrapped up in that you know, they're being intentionally bad. They're not. They can't help it. The hormones are just kicking into overdrive, and you know, it's they're struggling, which is why you're seeing all these behaviours coming out. So it's just a case of bearing that in mind, and bearing in mind that you know, it isn't a permanent thing, and as they go through adolescence, you're going to get, you know, you'll get a spike and there'll be an absolute pain in the ass for like a week or two, and then the spike, you'll come down the other side of the spike and they'll be nice and peaceful and quiet and sleepy and chill, and you know, and it will go up and down like that a little bit, and some will be worse than others, but it is just a case of riding it out. I mean, thankfully it doesn't last anywhere near as long as adolescence with humans, which is great. But it, you know, it is a little bit of a ride, and it's why during adolescence that is the primary time when most dogs get given up. You know, the peak age for most dogs in rescue is between 6 and 18 months old. Because that's when they do go through this difficult stage, and it's a normal part of mammal development. All mammals go through it, you know, obviously we know humans do, but most mammals go through this developmental stage, and it is hard, and it's part of, you know, they're learning to be an adult version of what they are and what the social, you know, expectations are. And obviously we put extra social pressures onto them because we expect them to not only be able to deal with, you know, canine social hierarchies, but in, you know, being involved in a human one as well, which is a completely alien world to them, and they, you know, we have to teach them how to deal with that as well, and obviously it's difficult for them. So there's a lot to bear in mind with it, and I know there's going to be times, and you know, I've gone through it gone through it 6 times now, you know, where it is difficult and you're pulling your hair out and you're going, why on earth, you know. Bella has still to this day been the worst one for me during adolescence. She was a right pain in the ears, but yeah, you know, they all, even Toki, who everybody loves and thinks is a super duper good girl, and she is now, but she's, because she's an old lady and she's really chill. But yeah, when she was a teenager, she was a pain in the butt as well. Weren't you, Mrs.? Yes, you were a pain in the butt. Chewing holes in carpets. Yes. Yeah, not on the edge of the carpet. You didn't pull the carpet up from the edge of the room. Oh no, she chewed a hole in the middle of the carpet. Didn't you, Turks? Yes, you did. Yeah, so that was fun, you know. And Zeus has, you know, chewed couches, and so's Bella, and in fact Millie was actually my least destructive of all of these guys, you know, even though she's the most wolf. But yeah, you figure it out. People always blame the wolf side of it for how destructive they are, and it always makes me laugh because obviously I've you know, come across a lot of cases of this through my dog training and stuff like that, and the worst case was a Springer Spaniel who ripped out a whole bathroom suite, like downstairs bathroom. So yeah, it's not the wolfy side of them, it's just the teenage idiot side of them. Yeah, it's just a case of managing it. So yeah, crate training is your friend, making sure they've got lots of alternative chew items, etc. If you don't want a crate, get pens. So obviously, you know, you've all seen me using this pen. They do a higher one of this as well. They do like 120 centimeter one, so it's about this high. This is the 100 centimeter one. You know, so you can always get a pen instead if you don't want them in, you know, confined in the crate. It all depends on how long they're going to be in there for and things like that. Kira quite happily does sort of like 3 or 4 hours in the crate at the moment, and she's you know, she does fine with it. But we've kept up her training in her crate from day one. Although she's not been shut in it a huge amount up until now, she's always had her meals in there. She has all her treats in there. You know, she sleeps in there a lot. You know, things like that. So we've made sure we've kept up on that. So it may be a case of, you know, going back and doing some more catch-up training with that if it's not something that's been maintained. And obviously just redirecting as much as you can, you know, when they're doing all this bitey business and all that kind of stuff, redirection, and desensitization to anything that they are having, you know, reactions to at the moment. The other thing to be aware of as well, you're probably going to see what is technically their third fear period occur soon, which can be anywhere between now and about 10 months old. and you'll find that they'll suddenly become unsure of things that they've been absolutely fine with before. And again, it's something that's only going to last, a week or two. It's just triggered by a hormone. Well, it's actually triggered by a hormone trough, that one. So it's the removal of the hormones that suddenly makes them feel a bit, unsure and anxious and stuff, because they've just had this big, massive spike of hormones, and then all of a sudden everything disappears. Well, it doesn't disappear, but the levels drop dramatically, and then it makes them feel more angsty. So that's something to be aware of, and it's just a case of just sort of like continue as normal. If they do startle at something, just reassure them, and let them, if you can, let them check it out and realize that it's nothing scary, and then just carry on, and it will settle back down. But yeah, so it's all fun and games, and we're all going through this ride together. That's the second time for me with the litters, because obviously with the last litter, although I didn't keep one, I had Dax pretty much at the same time. She's only like 4 or 5 weeks younger than the Jungle Book litter. So yeah, it's a ride. It really is. And Dax is only just coming out the other side of it now. She's just coming out of adolescence now. We're just starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel. She's getting a little bit more responsive off lead and things like that again. And she's still having her moments with running up to other dogs, but she's slowly coming down the other side of that now. So it gets better, it gets easier. It's just a case of riding it out. And if any of you've got any specific questions about stuff, drop me a message. As you all know, I'm always here. I might not respond straight away because, as some of you know, I have gone back to working employed full time at the moment. So I am doing 40 hours a week, full-time employment, in 4 10-hour shifts. So it's a lot. And then also on Thursdays and Fridays, I'm still doing about another 10 hours worth of dog walking as well. So I'm doing about 50 hours a week at the moment, with the odd training client dotted in and out of there as well. So I'm pretty busy. It's good for the dogs because I'm working from home with doing the full-time work. So I'm here for them, and while still having the income that I need. So yeah, but it's not going to be forever. Yes, I'll fill your water up in a second, Sausage, even though you do actually have another bowl of water in the porch, but everybody likes that one for some reason. So drop me a message. I say I might not get back to you straight away, but I will as soon as I've got 5 minutes to put my brain in gear and think of the answer that's needed, and I'll pop some links in the comments of this post tomorrow morning. So, but yes, much love to you all, and hopefully we'll have a catch up soon at some point, because I'm very aware that we haven't organised anything for the Jungle Book Litter's birthday, which I have done the last couple of years. But I'm up for the Love of Sci-Fi this weekend. Not this weekend, well, next weekend as it is now. So I'm not free. And then the weekend after, I think, is Neil's birthday. Maybe it's the weekend after that. So maybe we might be able to book something in the interim. Oh yeah, we can have a think about maybe doing something on the 11th. But yeah, we'll have that conversation at some point. But yes, so yeah, take care everybody, have a good evening, and catch up with you later. YouTube tubes. Easy, bye.